the
And
one.
we still got Cooper Flag on the way up too.
I mean, young boy potential. We'll see what it is when he get there.
You ain't gonna give him no shine.
I mean, doing well on the college level.
I know, but that isn't that. I thought the college is supposed to prepare people for the league. We act like the
Not
college
now.
boys ain't ready.
Not now.
What happened now?
Not now.
What do you mean?
I mean, it's too much of college and the NBA now. The pathway to basketball, which leads perfectly into my next point, actually, because it even goes down to the high school level. But
You know what I mean?
in general, high school, college, NBA, that whole straight line pathway that used to be the thing, I don't know if that shit's going to be the thing anymore, man. Like, I don't know.
So
I mean, Cooper Flag aside, because he's going to make the NBA.
He's gonna make the NBA for
He's
sure.
going to make the
He
NBA,
been
so we'll
balling
see
out
what
in
he is when we
college.
get
He been
there. I
balling
just
out.
like I don't like to crown guys before they actually perform on that level. Is my thing, you know.
The same thing happened with Bronny. I got you. Even though he was doing great in his G League games, but we ain't gonna talk about that right now.
This is
We're
a
not talking about
Bronny free podcast.
We're gonna move on. I just brought it up. I'm sorry.
We just gave his dad how many minutes
sorry.
of conversation.
I'm sorry.
So, you know.
Averaging
but
20. Go ahead.
Moving forward, though, man, I did want to open up the conversation because it did segue pretty well from what we were just talking about to what we will speak about next. Just the overall consensus on what, like, again, the pathway towards the NBA, these just levels of players moving from high school, AAU, to college, to the NBA. And it kind of ties back to episode 51. So if you didn't check that out, my Real Estate Smith episode, I spoke on it there, but wanted to expand on the conversation a little bit more just in general, just because the way things are going is going to be harder and harder for high school athletes to make it to college. And it goes off of what Rick Pitino said, where he said that St. John's next year would not be, which is one of the better teams in the country, and they just clinched the Big East, or at least a share of the Big East championship. This past week. But what he said about how he's not even looking at high school players for his roster next year does bring up an interesting shift in mentality, just because the NIL and the portal with all that shit mixed in together makes it to where you might not have to get high school kids. Like, again, said just last episode, and the pool of high school kids that make it to that level, I feel like over the next 3 to 5 years, and maybe forward, depending on what the rules changes and all that look like, will get smaller and smaller and smaller, because you got to be ready when you get to college now to contribute. Like, these guys are sticking around longer. Your career can last from 18 to like 24, 25 with all the rules to where you can stick around for more years than we had when we was there. And now, if you can stick around longer and you can take players from other rosters and just move them around like chess pieces, like you would in the NBA, in a sense, free agency, the portal and all that shit. Like, why would I be looking at high school dudes who are, one, softer mentally than, you know, prior eras and prior years, two, filled with that much more accountability issues than prior years and all that other stuff, and then three, all the other stuff that you just got to go through when you get to college from high school. Like, when I got to college from high school, it was a fucking culture shock, a physical, like, body shock, like everything changed. Like, the level just completely turned up, and that is a whole adjustment in itself. Not to mention, you got to get used to being on your own without your family. Not to mention, you got to get used to learning a bunch more fucking plays than you probably had on your high school team and being able to remember them and execute them on the court. Not to mention that all the players that are on your team, depending on where you go and how actually of a good player, like how much of a good player you actually are, I should say, the guys on your team might be just as good as you. Like, you know, and I keep using this example because it's what I know personally. When I got to Marquette, I thought I was like, you know, I was feeling myself a little bit, you know, coming out of a great high school program, played for Danny Hurley at St. Benedict's. We were state championships, one of the best prep teams in the nation at that point, and we just running through shit and we playing well. I'm playing with other great players who all went D1, at least my whole starting five. All of us went with D1. So then I get to a D1 university, I'm like, damn, like, motherfuckers is like actually better than me as a player, like, you know, out the gate when I first got there. And I'm just like, okay, these are people I got to compete with on a day-to-day basis. So all those things coming from high school to the college level was just different, and you had to get used to it. And it took me some time to get over a hump to where I'm like, I can actually play college games and be impactful in some way, you know, whether or not statistically or just strategically, to where I'm helping the team win. Like, these guys nowadays, if you're not in position to do that, they're going to pass you up. They're going to pass you up.
They're not even going to consider you.
They're not even going to consider you.
Yeah.
And now it just trickles down to where the high school game becomes even more pressure and not as fulfilling. And I say that as a direct quote from somebody, my man who was in the high school for real, like, and he's been coaching for, I think, 8 years now on the high school level. Won conference championships, has made noise. He coaches up in the city, up in New York, and he said, like, the shit's not really fulfilling right now. So he said he got 2 more years, and then he's probably going to do something else just because you can't place kids like you used to. Colleges is not really just reaching out and taking chances on kids like they used to. And the overall entitlement issues of just the players and them thinking they that much better than they actually are just makes the shit not as fulfilling as it used to be. Yeah. And this is all in the path of, like, maybe the last 3-4 years, you know?
Yeah.
With all the rule changes and everything post-COVID to where, you know, now we're looking at something that's like the Wild Wild West in a sense.
It's a multifaceted issue. Yeah. You got all this money that's being pumped into youth sports, but that breeds, honestly, a lot of shady people trying to just get the dollars.
No, facts.
And I think that is a byproduct of that. We got people that are sucking out the true essence of what the game is about, right? Of what the reason why you picked the ball up in the first place. And as you know, you're a coach. You're out here. You're seeing these kids. You was out in what?
I was these kids.
Yeah, you was one of these kids. But definitely they didn't get the access to the money the same way though.
Man, I missed that boat.
But
I missed that boat.
What I'm trying to highlight is it going to make it more difficult to weed out which kid is going to be the next superstar and who's worth taking the risk on, or is it going to create a vacuum of people who are just sticking around in college to make bread?
It's going to do both.
Exactly. So where does that leave the kid that, you know, because think about it, Jordan didn't make it on his first team when he was younger, right? So the next Jordan ended up not going to be given the opportunities simply because the way the structure of this, you know, this money-making machine we've created is now set up. It doesn't allow for that kid to be developed over time and get to that level where he can then be the greatest of all time. It's just like, nah, how many kids that would have had opportunity aren't going to be picked up by a college?
Opportunity less. To give you the one-word answer is going to leave those kids opportunity less. Like, I don't even know that's an actual word, but like that's where they're going to end up. Like, so I'm telling you.
It's unfortunate, but I think this also creates a space for like you and others to create programs for kids to learn and to get the fundamentals to hone in on those skill sets so that when they go to those opportunities or they're getting scouted and things like that, they're gonna be shining.
Cooking up. I'm telling you, I'm cooking up, and we cooking up, and you know we'll get there when the time comes. Mm-hmm. But you know, there's been some conversations going on about how to make a mark in this new game, in this new like era of basketball that we're witnessing. And you know, there's some things that can be done that I think can be helpful. But my perspective right now is that high school players had to be that much more ready headed into college to even be able to sniff the floor or even sniff signing a scholarship to an NCAA university, just because, again, they're going to pass you up if they don't feel like they can win with you. So,
should they prioritize two-sport athletes now?
I mean, prioritize what you want. I'm always a fan of people doing multiple things in high school to kind of like experience and play around with what you might like actually fall in love with and could be something to move you forward to the next level. But from my perspective, it kind of goes across sports. We just talking about basketball specifically, but NIL ain't only in freaking basketball.
That's very true.
Like, you know, the rules kind of apply across the board. So for me, like the level that high school players have to get to last, well, one, to be considered, and two, to last on the college level, they have to start focusing on a lot more things now.
Right.
You know, and from my perspective, even more so on the strength and conditioning side, like you have to have your body ready to roll in college before you even get there. To even like, you know, make coaches be like, okay, like that kid can probably play physically on that level. All other things, maybe not, but at least the physical side of things, you got to get into more now, like as high school players. And it's not to say, you know, super heavy weights and all the other stuff. There's ways to train that can get you ready for that level. And there are a bunch of people that kind of know a lot more about that nowadays than they knew in the past, as far as the strength and conditioning side of things and the fitness side of things picking up. But I think that is one thing that players in the high school level need to start focusing on right now, outside of the skill work, because that's another number one thing. But for me in high school, I ain't lift a weight like that. I was in the gym a lot working on my game, but then again, the physical component of what happens when you go from this level to this level is completely different. My first lift in college kicked my ass and I didn't touch a weight.
I believe it.
Like, didn't touch a weight.
This ain't the same.
My first strength and conditioning second session in college, I did not pick up one weight and they kicked my ass. Like, literally. So,
that's crazy.
Being ready for that kind of stuff when you step in the door is important for high school players now.
For sure.
Having your skills tight, important for high school players now. Having the mentality to be able to contribute to the school as soon as you get there, important now. Or else, again, opportunity less is where you're going to end up being as a high school player,
Yeah, man.
So it's a crazy game, but you got to weed your way through it, but definitely have to make sure you're focusing on the right things and putting yourself in position the best way you can by having a bunch of different components all together to present to a school to say, all right, now I'm going to give you a chance, kid.
Facts.
So that's that on that.
We shall see what's going on with these kids, man.
Yeah,
Best
no
of luck
doubt.
to them. Best of luck to them.
No doubt.
And if you haven't,
and get right, man.
Make sure you holler at your boy Dwight.
Yeah, listen,
get you right on the hit.
It's some things it's some things we working on. So I don't like to count my chickens before they hatch, but in due time, we'll start rolling some things out, and then that is what it is.